I'm running tubeless on the front and the back, and I think I ended up in these wet rocky creek sections, I ended up letting a bit of pressure out, and I think I ended up at about 2 or 3 psi in the back out on the trail. So if the course changes, like going from hard sharp rocks in a creek bed to wet and rounded river rocks or mud, I do have the option to let a bit of pressure out if I need to. Moose, you can't do that. And obviously with a standard heavy duty tube, you need to err on the side of caution, keep a slightly higher pressure in there. But yeah, look, new tyres are always really good help, but not really the be all and end all and the key to getting through one of these races.
Yeah, I did this event on what you pretty much call a shagged rear tyre. I know, Barry, yours was pretty shagged. You only did it as a sweep, but it still did the same course. But yeah, I found with the tubeless system and about 4 psi, there was just traction everywhere, and that's on a shagged tyre.
This is a really interesting point too with the tubeless, because I did a video a few years ago. People are always saying, what's best, tubes, mooses or tubeless? And of course I just say, it depends. I mean, God, it depends on 20 different factors. I can't answer that for you. But what I've always thought is that as you get more and more seriously into racing, mooses at some point must become the best choice. At the moment, I'm assuming tubeless still works well for you. But for example, if you really pushed hard and you actually started to say, I want to actually place really high in silver, is that a point you might go to mooses, or would you just stick with tubeless?
I don't think so. The people I do know that run mooses, they are very good riders and they're quite aggressive. And I think a lot of the thought behind running the mooses is it's almost a fail-proof system. So they know that again, the chances of them having a DNF from a mechanical failure, whether that be a tube puncture or a moose failing or a tubeless failing, pretty unlikely for a moose to fail. They know that at the start of the day, they've got what they've got. It's going to last them the day out. They're not going to get a puncture. So it's one less thing for them to worry about. I don't see myself getting to the point of being that fast or good of a rider, or that sort of dead set on finishing well and positioning well in a race. I'd rather have the safety and adjustability of the tubeless system. Yeah. And I've been running it ever since I got the old Gasca, so 2018 I think that was, 2019, and I'm yet to have a puncture. I don't know how many tyre changes I've done, too many to warrant thinking about, but I've never had any issues with the tubeless system. You just got to follow the instructions to the T, and once you've done it once, it is quite an easy process, probably almost as easy as doing a tube tyre, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny, like some people go through their tyres without getting punctures, and I had a Golden Tie fatty front and it ended up with 3 plugs in it. So yeah, maybe I was just hitting the wrong terrain or tyre pressures were too low. But yeah, I mean, if you carry the right tools, if you carry the little plugs and the glue and everything, it's only a 5-minute stop to fix it. As long as you haven't done something serious like tear the inner high pressure bladder or anything like that.
That's true. So as long as the inner bladder doesn't fail or the liner doesn't fail, even if you put a massive hole through the sidewall of your tyre, the tubeless system is going to retain the beads of the tyre to the rim, so you still can ride yourself out of the bush if you need to, and not worry about the tyre going AWOL.
Starting to think this podcast has been brought to you by Tubeless Corporation. It sounds like a 1-hour advert for them, but
not sponsored by Tubeless.
Not sponsored by Tubeless.
I should just step in and say Tubeless sucks. We hate it. We're definitely not sponsored, but hey, look, actually, if anybody is actually listening to this, I've done a video that talks about the pros and cons of tubeless. It's not perfect. It's bloody good, depending on what sort of riding you're doing, but yeah, it's definitely not the perfect setup. See that video.